everybody, welcome. Today I wanted to review this palette from TheBalm for you. It's the Highlight and Contour palette, and I ordered mine not too long ago off of the Kohl's website, and I have always been a big fan of TheBalm's line. Most things in their line I have really enjoyed, and I think they do a great job on palettes, not only with the quality in the palettes, but making them just really fun and entertaining. For example, this has kind of a music theme. They make it look kind of like a tour poster, and then on the inside you've got this big mirror here, and then your highlights are on top, your contour products are on the bottom. The top says hit those high notes, and then the bottom says all about that bass. It's got like the decibels down here. You're getting 2 shimmery highlights, 2 matte highlights, and then everything on the bottom is matte, including the 2 contour shades. This they call a bronzer, and then a blush as well. So all of my highlighting and contouring today has been done courtesy of this palette, so I will be showing you that in a little demo and kind of comparing a couple of lower cost items that you might want to consider if this is something you're interested in. So I think some high points of this palette to me are the fact that matte and shimmer is included. So if you do want to highlight and like add some brightness to your face, you've got 2 different tones of matte colors to do that with, and they are very brightening. They're nice textures, very pigmented. You can see one is a little more yellowy in tone, one has a bit more peach, and then your 2 shimmery highlights are kind of distinct tones as well. One really like a bright champagne type color. The other has just a little more peach happening to it, just a hair more depth. And then even with the contour shades down here, again, you have options. You know, one is a little bit deeper than the next. They're both very like contour friendly shades. The bronzer I haven't gotten a whole lot of use out of, especially sitting side by side with those contours. It does look a lot warmer, a little more on the orangey side, but then there's this gorgeous like rosy matte blush. So I do really like all of the variety that I feel like they've packed in here. Now, it does depend on skin tone, but for me, like these matte shades here can almost act like an all over face setting powder type thing. So I've got something like that in here. I've got something for glow, the contour stuff, and the blush. That's really a lot in one palette for I think $36, good quality products. I am enjoying it, but there are a few little cons here and there that I would point out. One of them being these are rather skinny products in here. I mean, while they have packed in a lot, look how skinny each of the pans is. You'll see this in the demo, but with the brushes that I use for these products, I don't find it to be a big issue. Like I'm not unintentionally picking up the neighboring product with my brush, but depending on the kinds of brushes you use, I could see somebody bringing in a big old powder brush and probably not just being able to stick very easily to just one shade. So that might be a slight concern with the layout and just the sizing of this. Also, I kind of wished that the highlights were even more like up a notch here. As I looked at these, I thought that one kind of looks like Mary Luminizer, and that one might be similar to Cindy Luminizer, sort of their peachy, glowy highlight. But I swatched them side by side with those, and they're really not nearly as glowy as that. That might be good news to some of you who don't like a really, really pronounced highlight, but I sort of wish at least one of these maybe was on par with those highlights that everyone's really familiar with from TheBalm, because I feel like these are pretty, but I kind of have to apply a lot of one of these shimmery shades to get a really apparent glow on my skin. You know what I'm saying? And while I'm talking comparisons to other products in TheBalm's line, I did look at these 2 shades and sort of compared those to their Bahama Mama bronzer, which is a nice dark, cool, bronzy shade. And these I think are on par with that pigmentation wise, but they're not quite the same tone. And I feel like I've tried nearly every blush that TheBalm makes, and I don't think this is really similar to anything else that I have. It's beautiful. I love that this is in here. I think this tone makes it really versatile for so many skin tones, because I could see someone with fair skin wearing this lightly and it would look really gorgeous, but then it also is kind of buildable, so I could see someone with more of a tan or rich skin tone wearing this and being very satisfied with the look as well. Not over the moon with this bronzer. I just find that to be really, really on the warm side for me, but having both of these nice cool shades here, I'm not really going to complain about it. But oh, another thing that I do enjoy about this palette is the fact that it makes a great eyeshadow palette. My goodness, I mean, considering all of the sort of shortcuts I've been trying to take with my makeup these days, I throw this in my little makeup caddy, take it downstairs with me, and I find, yeah, I can very easily get a totally workable eye look using these shades in my crease. This makes a nice warm eyeshadow shade for sure, and then I've got a couple glowy colors, a couple light colors. It can do a basic, simple eye look just super easily. So I enjoy that. I like finding ways to stretch a palette sort of beyond the way it's been marketed to you. But before I get into the demos, one other little con that I don't want to forget to mention to you, and I don't hold this against TheBalm, but Kohl's, you gotta figure out a way to package up your makeup palettes that you're shipping out to people, because I received this in a box, just floating around in there with zero bubble wrap, zero anything. It was like the only thing in the box, plus like a little shipping receipt. That was it. And so 3 of these pans popped out, and I'm pretty amazed that they didn't crack because they were just completely popped out of here. But thankfully, these powders all stayed intact for me. Overall, I'm pleased with the variety in this palette. I'm pleased with the quality. Just looking at the way everything came together on my face, I like the way it applied. I wasn't having to work hard with the products. TheBalm generally always puts out really nicely pigmented powders, so I'll jump into that and just show you how I put them on. I use my Sigma small contour brush with that first contour shade, the one that's a little bit lighter, and I just applied that to the hollows of my cheeks, not super heavily, but enough to get an impact there, and then I applied it a little bit around my hairline as well. I don't go too crazy with the heavy contouring on my face most of the time, and I find that this product does nicely fit my look. I wasn't having to be too careful with it, but it definitely does show up. Then I used my Milani blush brush and I applied this really pretty kind of berry rosy blush shade. Absolutely love this color. I think it would be very universally flattering considering the range you can get out of it. You can apply it very lightly, get a very soft rosy look, or build it up more. And the fact that it's matte, I think that's great, because then if you want more glow, just apply more of the glowy highlight on top. But then for a little added brightness on my skin, I did use my Up and Up highlight brush, and I went into the matte highlight on the far right. It has kind of this buttery tone, and I just applied that to the tops of my cheekbones and anywhere on my face that I wanted to bring a little more light to. And those are really pigmented, nicely textured powders. I like that there's 2 tones in there to use. I've gone between both of them on my skin and they seem to work well. And then I went into the highlight on the far left that I think is the brightest of the 2. And here's where I feel like, if you really want that to show on your skin, you have to build it up a little bit. It's not necessarily a little goes a long way type of highlight, and that might be good news to those of you who don't like a, shout it from the rooftops highlight anyway. But overall, the finished look I'm very pleased with. Absolutely love the combo of having both matte and shimmery highlights. Good products happening down here as well, but if you're looking at this and thinking, $36, I don't know if I want to pay that. Surely there's another contouring product on the market that I might like. Well, I do have a couple that I like that are lower cost that I think are definitely worth mentioning. I know I've talked about them both before, but the e.l.f. contour palette, excuse me, aside from one of the pans just jumping out of the palette at me here, I do think this is a really good product. I love the contour shade that's in here. You got a couple of highlights, including one that is that sort of matte buttery shade that I seem to like to use a lot. And then you got this warmer tone right over here that might act as more of a bronzer. No, it doesn't have a blush in it, but it is a really effective contouring palette. This is like a 2-time Emily Award winning thing. I really like it, and the cost is just great. I think it's like a $6 palette. Then another thing that gives you even more variety here is the contour palette, the Ultra Contour palette from Makeup Revolution. Love this thing as well, and this is really doing exactly what TheBalm's palette is, because you've got this range of deep and kind of cool contour shades. These are matte right here. You're getting your 2 tones. This one has a little bit more of a pearlescent glow. And then these 2 really shimmery shades here on the end. One is absolutely like crazy shimmery. One is a little bit more toned down and skin tone. But this is also going to be a fraction of the cost of what you're getting from TheBalm. I think I paid like $10 for that. So it's true, neither of those contain a blush in there, which I do love that aspect of the palette from TheBalm, and I really like the blush that's included. But at the same time, those palettes from Makeup Revolution and e.l.f. are really effective just from the contouring and highlighting perspective, I think. This Makeup Revolution one can just take you much more in a glowy direction. The e.l.f. one doesn't have anything extremely like metallic and frosty in terms of highlights. So in a nutshell, yes, I like what TheBalm is doing here, but they're bringing a highlight and contour palette into a very like saturated market with contouring products like this. So there are other options out there. I don't think you have to spend $36 to get a decent look, you know, but I do really like TheBalm's quality. And if you were wondering about this, wondering if it's good, yes, I do think it's good. I wouldn't say it's a total 100%. Everyone needs to rush out and get this because it's so crazy different. But I do find myself glad that TheBalm added something like this to their line. I enjoy it. I'll continue using it. And if you are looking for something that multitasks in a lot of ways, and don't forget, really nice eyeshadow palette as well, you might be into this. So thank you guys so much for taking time to watch. I hope this was informative for you, and I will see you again very soon. Bye.